Today we're looking at the subject, you are here. You said you came from here, so you're already here. Exploring the Heart of Enlightened Christianity series I've been doing, and we're thinking about the what it means to be an alternative Christian. And I hope you see that in a positive way. I hope you see it in an advanced, enlightened way without any snobbery attached to that. Most of us here probably have been through a traditional experience with the Christian message. And if you're like me, there are a lot of things about it that you appreciate and want to continue on with. But there are a lot of things about it that we no longer embrace. And I don't have any real negative feelings about that. I'm glad that I had the exposure I did to the Christian message, to the mainstream Christian message, I should say. But a lot of it is about future life, if you notice. It's about living a good life here, being saved, so that you will spend eternity in heaven. You'll get through the pearly gates and make it into that gated community and play a harp for eternity. Hope you like harp music. But that's the idea, is to be saved for a future time. It's to live in eternity. Well, in New Thought, in the kind of thinking that we engage in, and I think Jesus supported this idea. And, you can use Jesus for about anything. He would make a great attorney, because he could argue about any case for you. And that's one of the problems with the Bible. You can quote and support anything that you believe in. You can find some verse there that will support it. So what we're trying to do in this series is to discern the mystical thread of the sayings that are attributed to Jesus. And that is, in my opinion, what he actually taught, as opposed to what the church taught. And that's what we're all kind of sorting out. When somebody says, I'm an atheist, they've been down the whole religious path, and they decide that's not for me. I don't believe in that stuff. What I think that most are rejecting, and I have known a number of atheists, and I've had the privilege of being able to talk to them and just see where are you coming from. It's an interesting conversation to have. And what I think I understand is that they are rejecting not necessarily that there is some power greater than themselves. It's just not the description they've been given, in the mainstream religion. The old man in the sky who's angry, or can be angry, can be loving, can be angry, can be happy, sad, sorry he made us, happy he made us, whatever. Go through all these human emotions. Somebody said that God created man and after his image, and man's been trying to return the compliment ever since. It's like we make this deity into a human form that has emotions. And to be saved, we have to please that deity. We go through the traditional Christian plan of salvation. We accept Jesus Christ as our personal Savior and try to walk the straight and narrow all of our life. And then when we leave this, what's the song? When my feeble life is o'er, I changed the words. I ain't coming back no more. I don't know what the actual words are, but anyway, it's the idea that when this feeble life is over, then I'll enter the kingdom. I'll be happy. So what we're doing here is we're making a major shift in how we're defining eternity. I'm saying today that you are here. How many of you have ever been anywhere else? Any place else? Right now we all say, I am here. When have you ever been able to say anything different? Let's say you're 1,000. You could suddenly be 1,000. Transported 1,000 miles from here. What would you say then? Would you say I'm there? Wouldn't you say I'm here? Have you ever escaped here? Gotten out of the here and now? We sure try. We project and we regret. We look to the future and we look to the past. But when are you doing that? You say, oh, I'm feeling totally miserable because I have something coming up and it's just making me sick to think about it. Well, when are you doing that? Are you there yet? Are you up there in that place and being made sick by this thing? Or are you here thinking about it? Can you get out of the here and now? And the little exercise I have you probably beat you over the head with is the thought of just thinking of standing someplace, anywhere, in place, say, I'm here. And you look at another place, in the back of the room, and you say, that's there, back there. So if you walk back to that place, are you there or are you still here? You can't leave here. You take it wherever you go. So everything that's happening in this universe is happening at this very moment. This is something to think about. When we look up at the stars, we're not seeing the stars as they are. We're seeing the light that has finally reached us. The stars are so far away that we're, in a sense, looking into the past, but that starlight is just now hitting us in the here and now. So it's not happening in the past necessarily, but actually the star that we're looking at may not even be there anymore. But its light is still coming, still traveling, so it looks like it is. But the point is, you can never be anywhere other than here. And that's a wonderful thought. It's a wonderful philosophy. But does it do us any good to know that? How do we apply that? And that's what we want to look at today. What do we do with that? It's something, you hear when you get into this type of thought, you'll hear it right away. You're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Excellent book. And some wonderful ideas. But it's not always easy to practice, is it? Actually, it is easier to be in the here and now than it is to anticipate the future. You don't get beat up so much in the here and now. It's when you're thinking about what's going to happen. That's when you get beat up. Have you ever noticed that? Or is that just me? I don't know. When you're anticipating something in a negative sense, when you're afraid or there's so many unknowns about it, you can make yourself sick, literally. But is what is happening in this now moment making you sick? The only thing that's making you sick is yourself, your thinking, your emotions. And I'm pretty practiced at that. I know how to do it quite well. And I know what it is to regret the past. I know what it is to beat myself up over something I said or did or should have said or did or whatever. I know what that's like. But where am I doing that? And is there some way I can resolve that in the past? Is there some way I can... And that's what we want to do. We want to resolve it so we can let it go, so we can feel good. But it's important to realize what's going on while we're doing it. It's all happening in the now. We're using our mind at this moment. I call it present mind action, PMA. We like acronyms, so... What is our mind doing now? What are we doing with our mind now? What are we doing with our imagination? Where's our faith? How do we feel about ourselves at this moment? Not how will we feel or how we should feel, but what are we doing with the power that we have right now? That's the question that we want to ask. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. And I would like to think of this, I am the way, as the now moment. It's not so much Jesus the man, but it's a statement of presence. I am. Not I will be or I was, but I am. And I think this is we have to get our mind off of the man, Jesus, in this particular case. In fact, there's a whole series in the Gospel of John known as the I am statements, and they're all centered in the I am. And if we think of this not as the man speaking, but think of the present moment as saying this to you. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me, but by the now moment. That takes on a whole new meaning. Like I'm in the Father. Right now I'm in God. I'm in this universe. I've pointed out before, we talk about traveling to outer space. I'd love to travel into outer space someday. But that's where we live. We live in outer space. Have you ever seen a picture of the Earth, from, I think it was Voyager that was shot out and turned around and took a picture of the Earth? It looks like a little blue dot. You think you don't live in outer space? That little blue dot is surrounded by space. It's in space. We're in space. We're space travelers. And we're traveling. I forget how fast we're traveling. It's thousands of miles per hour. We don't even know it. We're traveling through space. We're already in space. So it's like saying, someday I would like to be with God. Well, we're already in God. We're already in it. We're in it right now. And our existence is proof of it. But we take that for so much for granted. And it's easy to take for granted because we're so rarely present. We're always projecting. We're always looking back one way or the other. But if you think of this, I am the way, like we're at the door, we're in the threshold of eternity in this now moment. This is the only place we'll ever be. It's the only place we can be. And that's in itself is worth thinking about. When you are concerned about something, to try to reel yourself back in and say, okay, I have a concern about this thing, and probably every one of us do, that I can't apply my power to that thing I'm thinking about, to that place I will be. I can't apply anything to it, which is why it's so draining, which is why it's so difficult to handle. So you say to yourself, when I get there, I will have everything. I think that's what Jesus was saying in another place about, don't try to project what you'll say. You'll know what to say when you get there. I forget exactly the quote, but that's difficult. It's difficult to do it. But as I said, it's more difficult to not do it and to beat yourself up projecting. There's nothing that feels too good about that, is there? Am I the only one that does that, or you guys do it too? Am I just talking to myself here? I know you do it. You do it worse than I do, probably, so that's why I'm up here and you're down there. So how do you see your spiritual path? This is a pretty important thing to think about, I think. I have dwelt on this for the last several years on how to think of it. Are you moving toward an unknown destination? What are you trying to accomplish with your spiritual path? Do you see yourself accomplishing whatever it is you're thinking about sometime in the future? I think most of us carry a picture of us enlightened, that someday we will reach enlightenment. And we can kind of imagine, when I get to that point, this thing that bothers me today, it'll come and nothing bothers me. Nothing will bother me at all because I'll be so enlightened. I'll be so in tune with God that nothing will bother me. That's how we tend to view an enlightened being. So are you moving towards some unknown destination like this, some unaccomplished destination. Someday I'll be more spiritually than I am right now. Is that how you think of yourself? Is that how you think of the spiritual path? So ask yourself the question, are you any closer to that place you think you ought to be? I've talked to a number of people over the years, 40-some years, and my sense is that not very many people feel that they're anywhere near what they imagine this place that they ought to be. That they're still going. And what we tend to do in this kind of thinking is, well, I'm not going to make it this lifetime, so I'll have to do it the next, probably. We've kind of used that idea of coming back as a buffer, that I'm certainly not going to get there now. So what is it we're going for? What are we trying to achieve is the question. Because I think probably in most cases it's unrealistic. It's something we will never achieve. It is a product of the self-image that we're trying to improve all the time. Has nothing to do with the soul. Nothing to do with our spiritual core, our spiritual identity. We're trying to achieve something that's impossible because it's in the future. We'll never get there. You can't get to the future. You can't get there from here. You have to be here. This is where you are. So are you moving toward an unknown destination? It's just something important to think about. How do you see yourself on the spiritual path? Are you incomplete now and someday you'll be complete? Just think in terms of that. Ask yourself those kinds of questions. Do you look to your past as a way of measuring how far you've come in your thinking? And again, I've noticed that a lot of us do this. You may have a library full of books, and all those books that you've read represent how far you've come. You could probably prove that you have a head full of spiritual ideas, that you have a lot of good information about the nature of spiritual things. But you go back to the first one, are you any closer to your ideal because you've got a head full of books? And I think the answer most of us would give is, I don't feel like I have done that. I still have a long way to go. So again, it's a very important thing to think about. What kind of a yardstick are we using? Do we look to the past, like I came out of mainstream Christianity, so I feel like I have evolved, come further along, more enlightened thinker perhaps, but do I feel closer to the ideal that I hold? Something we all can look at. Do you feel you're getting any closer to your spiritual goal? This, again, it's just another way of asking this question. Just take this into your time of meditation. Don't think so much about where you've come from, where you've been, but how you feel right now about your spiritual development. Because I would guess that most of us feel like we have a long way to go. And what I have said for the last several years is that belief is like a carrot held out on the end of the pole, the end of the stick, keeps the mule going. The problem is you never reach the carrot. It's impossible. The only way you reach the carrot is stop the cart, take the pole off, and give it to the mule. And that happens in the now moment. But that very idea, I think a lot of spiritual teachers hold out to us, that, just hang in there, just keep working on it. One day you'll be, whatever it is you imagine. But what if we think of that differently? What if we think that instead of one day I will be there, that I'm actually here now? I'm actually in all that I will ever be. My soul is complete, that the fullness of God is here now. Again, just think about everything that's happening in this universe. It's not happening in the future. It's happening now. Now, I know there's parallel universes, or there's theories about parallel universes and all the different things, and we can go down that road, but if we're not careful, it'll keep us just as out of the now as anything. It's all interesting stuff. But let's just deal with one life and one universe at a time. Everything that's happening in this universe, if a cricket is chirping, it's chirping now. If a dog is barking, it's barking now. A car is going down the road, it's doing it now. Everything is happening now. You have one breath. You have one heartbeat. You can actually think one thought at a time. And that all happens in this now moment. So what if you are closer to your ideal than you think? It's just that you've been telling yourself a lie. That you say, I'm undeveloped. I'm not there yet because I just don't feel like I'm there. Like our kids used to always ask on car trips, and I did the same myself as a kid, are we there yet? And I used to really get them angry. You can ask Audrey, she's not here today, but they'd say, are we there yet? And I'd always say, yeah, we're here, which is not an answer to them. Well, I don't mean that. I mean, are we there yet? Yeah, we're here. We'll never be anyplace else. What a depressing thought. You want to be there, and I'm here. And we all know that feeling, and it takes a father to really aggravate the kid. But our Father is not doing that to us. We do it to ourselves. When Jesus speaks of coming to the Father, he doesn't say, I will be the way, but I am the way. And again, you think of this now moment. The truth I teach is the way to the Father here and now. I think that's what Jesus always taught. We say there's 4 months to the harvest. He says to lift up your eyes and see the fields are ready for harvest now. What does that mean? What did he mean by that? What mainstream religion says is, well, he was saying the end is near. And I don't think he was saying that at all. I think he was saying the now is the only time we ever have. The Gospel of Thomas says the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. So how much more of the kingdom do we need to be here before we do see it? And if we are sure that it is all here, present now, and we're not seeing it, then what's the problem? It must be that I'm anticipating something so much. I'm looking at that carrot. My eye is fixed on that carrot. And there's probably a bushel full of carrots sitting next to me that I'm not even looking at. It's like we're after something that we will never attain. And so we're saying, well, the kingdom's here, but it's coming. That's the whole thought of mainstream Christianity. They were waiting for the Messiah. He shows up. They put him to death. They wait for him to come back. The kingdom is never here. It's always coming. It's always going to happen sometime in the future. I get a kick out of these evangelical types that look at all the clues in the Bible and they try to figure out, what's going on in politics, what's going on in the world, all the wars that countries were having problems with, and they're trying to discern when the kingdom's coming. I love the Gospel of Thomas. The kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and we don't see it. Jesus said it doesn't come through observation, through signs. He said the kingdom of God is within you. And that's the thing we don't get, because we're not here. We're always looking for something to come. I think that's how the book of Acts starts out. The disciples are looking up to the clouds, and this angel appears and says, what are you doing that for? They're looking for something to happen, something to come, someday down the road. You can only be here, you can only think about the past and future, but you can only be here. this moment you can project, you can think about your house. You're here in church, you think about your house, think about your yard. You can see the whole thing. You're not there, but you can see it. Maybe you say, I wonder if I left the stove on or left the iron on. We have that experience always about a mile away from the house when we go someplace. I think I left the iron on. No, I checked the iron. Well, I think I left the stove on. No, something's on. We got to go back and check. It's a projection. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go back and check, because sometimes it is on. But when you are thinking that, even if it's not true, you can have a pretty miserable experience, right? So do irons or stoves give you the miserable experience, or does the thought? What happens when we are looking for a kingdom to come is we're defining where we are as bad. This has got to change. This is evil. The kingdom of heaven has to come and wipe this out and make things much better. And as long as we're thinking that, and look at how long Christians have been thinking that, at least 2,000 years. Is it better? Is the world better now than it was during the time of Jesus? Are people happier? They didn't have drugs back then. If they're happier, it's probably because they're on drugs. It's not because conditions are better. The news is full of nasty, nasty things. If this is the kingdom, if this is what people want to change or have changed, then it's not going to happen. It's that you find yourself in this now moment here, whatever the conditions are of the world. The universe is happening. Have you noticed that? It is fully in place. Everything is fully in place now. It's fully functioning at this moment. Why am I out of sync with it? That's the question we ask. It's because I'm anticipating something. I'm not here. I'm trying to be there. I'm anticipating there. There is better than here. I can't wait to get there. So I drag myself into there, and where am I? I'm here. That saying, it's like I show up wherever I go. It's like you drag yourself into whatever, whoever you are here, you'll be you there, in that here. We're waiting for something to change our lives, something to make us different or to make life different. And it's not that there isn't change. It's not that maybe you are in a condition that needs to change. But how do you exist in this now moment in a positive way? How do you throw your arms around your life as it is and say it's okay and I'm okay, and start living fully right where you are? I'm not going to live till I get there. What if you say, I will live my life here? I will take each day, each hour, each moment, and I will make this my life. And I will give of myself. I will give myself to this experience. I'll be here now. Because we can only be here. You can think about the past and the future, but you can only be here. All that constitutes the living forces that sustain you are in full operation right now. If you're asking God to give you more of something, more faith, more power, more understanding, more life, more health, and all of us do, and there's nothing wrong with asking. How do we ask? James says you ask and you don't receive because you ask amiss. You pray amiss. What's that mean? It means you are assuming that what you want is someplace else. And you need to get there before you have it. What if you, right where you are, say, God is my life. God is my health, my wholeness. And all that I desire is present in this now moment. It's now manifesting. But the spiritual basis for everything is here now. That which is seen is made out of that which is not seen. But you first grasp the unseen as being here now. I don't know what to do in my life. Divine intelligence does, and divine intelligence is here. All the intelligence you could possibly desire is here. So instead of saying, I don't know what to do, how about tune yourself into, I know what to do, and I now do it. I know what to do, and I now do it. You can say that, still not know what to do, but say it anyway until you start believing it. I know what to do, and I now do it. That's accepting that all of the intelligence of God is here now, and instead of you blocking it off by saying, I don't know what to do, making that affirmation, you're tuning into what is here. You're reaching over to that bushel basket of carrots, and you're getting yourself a carrot. Instead of grasping for that one that, when I know what to do, I'll get that carrot out there. You start where you are. I know what to do now. You're having a health challenge. My wholeness is present. I fully accept this. I am whole at the spiritual level. And you hold that idea, you hold that thought, you resonate with that. And it's not easy when you're not feeling well. It's not easy to do that. But that's being in the here and now. I am complete. My soul is complete. It can't be any more complete than it is now. My body's suffering at the moment. But I hold on to this wholeness, and I affirm this wholeness. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. That's the whole point. It's our mind is going from the carrot hanging out there to what we have right here. And we judge by appearances, very natural to do, very normal, I should say, not natural. Everybody does it. You get a lot of good sympathy for doing it. But whatever it is you need, it's here now. Begin to think that way. That the fullness of everything is happening right now. God is expressing as you in this now moment, the only time you will ever have. I am an expression of God. Not I will be an expression of God, but I am. So what does that really mean? If you said, what is God? You wouldn't think God is incomplete. If you're an expression of that, we make an exception. Well, I'm an expression of God, but I'm not complete yet. It doesn't even make sense. But we tell ourselves that all the time. We may not say the words, but we adopt the emotion. I don't feel good. I don't feel whole. So I'm going to affirm that rather than what is true about myself. So we're bringing our minds into what is true of us, and the only time we can do that is in this now moment. Stop anticipating or regretting and affirm what is true at this very moment. Know that you are in the Father and the Father is in you, and I like to think of that as, think of the sponge immersed in water. The water fills the sponge, and the sponge is in the water. The Father is the ocean, the sponge is you. To see yourself that way. I feel powerless. Does the sponge feel separate from the water? Could it? It's like when I feel powerless, then I affirm power. I'm in the Father and the Father's in me. There's no place where God leaves off and I begin. As we start thinking from that perspective, it changes the way we feel. Our optimism opens up. Know that you're in the Father and the Father's in you, that you are perfectly capable now of awakening to this truth. That's the important line, the closer for today, is know that you have the capacity to change your mind, to see what is true of you rather than what is not.
You've been watching a talk presented at the Unity Church of Grand Junction by Reverend Doug Bator. We would like to thank everyone who joined us here today in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado, as well as those of you who are joining us online. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Also, please feel free to share this video with anyone you think might be interested or benefit from this message. If this video brought value to your life, please consider making a donation by clicking the link below to our PayPal donation account. Thanks again so much for watching.